ตั้งแต่เมื่อวานนะครับท่านผู้ชมครับตอนเย็นๆทั้ง13คนหายตัวไปหลังจากเข้าไปเที่ยวในถ้ำหลวงขุนน้ำนางนอน
Out of the breaking news overseas,
12 players and their coach missing.
We don't know how far they have gone.
As far as I know, there's no theatre of war inside a cave, so they've never ever been in a cave in their lives. So of course they haven't got those sort of spatial skills to navigating one, which we've honed over all those years.
Tham Luang had very poor visibility, so in lots of places you literally couldn't see your hand in front of your face and you had to almost feel your way along. Sometimes I just headed into the current because I simply couldn't see where I was going, I couldn't see any walls and so on.
There was a really strong current. You probably couldn't swim against it for long distance, so we were on the floor with our hands in the sand, pulling ourselves along. That was the only way to make progress.
No sign of life from 12 boys and their soccer coach.
The boys have now been missing for 72 hours. Locals are holding out hope that they're still alive.
Yeah, but you can.
Thank you.
How many of you?
They're all alive.
13?
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's okay.
Many people are coming.
Many people.
We are the first. Many people come.
What day?
Tomorrow. No. What day is it? No, I think. Monday. Okay, but 1 week and Monday. You have been here 10 days. 10 days. You are very strong.
Just describe the media interest in this story.
It's huge here.
태국 현지에서 구조장면 함께 보셨을 것 같은데요.
Es lunes y que han sido muy fuertes por subsistencia.
Leben gefunden.
Allora andiamo proprio in Thailandia.
To find the boys there is a huge relief for the authorities and just for the nation in general, actually.
So the plan for now is this. They are trying to furiously pump as much water out of this cave as possible.
Elon Musk built a kid-sized submarine after the rescue team rejected his offer, claiming that a rigid craft couldn't negotiate the sinuous cave tunnels. The Tesla boss lashed out on Twitter.
In previous cave rescues, drilling has been used as a way to get people out.
And the final option is to leave the group inside the cave until around mid-October, when the monsoon season finally ends.
Waking up to this news this morning, the man who died was young, he was fit, he was a former Navy SEAL, and I think it really just underlines how dangerous this cave is.
Saman Kunan died from lack of oxygen, his dive partner finding him unconscious in the water.
If anything had happened to the mask that was keeping their face dry, if it had been knocked in any way, then the child would unquestionably have drowned.
Reports from northern Thailand say at least 4 boys have been brought out.
We've got live pictures here. You can see the helicopter blades. And
ambulances.
Yes, ambulances, we saw those.
Extraordinary moment here as we are now learning that entire team is now free of that cave.
In 2018, students of a football team in Thailand entered a cave to explore after practice. At first everything was normal, but shortly after the rising waters due to the rain closed the return path, and thus this group of 13 people was trapped about 1,000 meters below the earth. So what happened in the chilling Tham Luang cave? How did this operation that alerted the whole world end on June 23? 2018 students of the Wild Boar Football Club went out to practice as usual. The club was a football team consisting of children between the ages of 11 and 16 working with a coach and an assistant coach. Their practice continued normally as usual, and the head coach said goodbye to his players and started preparing for an upcoming match of a larger team and put his phone aside. A few hours later, when the coach picked up his phone again, he saw that he had received many missed calls from the parents of the children. Although hours had passed, the children had not returned home. The coach called his players one by one, but he could reach neither them nor his assistant. Fortunately, after long efforts, a student answered the phone. Chen was a 13-year-old member of the team. He was answering the call from his home because his mother had picked him up earlier from practice. Shannon told the coach that the other team members together with their assistant coach went to the nearby Tham Luang cave by bicycle and tried to explore the cave. Upon this, the coach rushed to the cave, but when he got there he encountered a terrible sight. He found the abandoned bicycles of the children at the cave entrance. This meant that the team was still inside, but unfortunately the water flowing rapidly from the cave entrance was creating a life-threatening situation. Heavy rain had started. While the children were inside, and if they were still alive they were now completely trapped. Thai police officers found the children's backpacks and other belongings they left behind, but the water level was so high that it was not even possible to go beyond the cave entrance. A disaster had happened and they had to act quickly. In addition to local authorities, special Thai Navy SEAL divers were called to the Chiang Rai region to coordinate the rescue of the team, and a crisis management team was established here. Also, a British civilian even offered help to the Thai authorities. His name was Vernon Unsworth. He was an experienced caver living in the region, and as the person who had been exploring and mapping this cave for years, he had very good knowledge about the Tham Luang cave system. Tham is considered the fourth longest cave in Thailand, and after moving a bit from its entrance the cave splits into two at a T-junction. From here the entire cave extends to a depth of more than 10 kilometers, and if the children are still alive they are likely further inside and in a higher area. Unsworth's presence there was actually a great chance because he put the Thai authorities in contact with the British Cave Rescue Council and thus enabled cave divers John Bolanthan and Rick Stanton to fly to the region and participate in the search efforts. John and Rick were two friends who had been diving together for a long time and had great trust between them. They had previously carried out many rescue and body recovery missions together, so their help would surely be useful as new experts arrived. Every day fears were growing that it might be too late before the special cave divers could get to work. If the children were still alive they had probably run out of food. After all, they had only planned to spend a few hours in the cave. While the rescue teams were conducting a deep analysis, the heavy rain increased its effect. This caused the water level inside the cave to rise, and let alone making progress. The Thai divers were now able to progress even less than before inside the cave, and when the British cave divers arrived there was some doubt whether these older men could provide the contribution that the Navy divers could not. For John Bolanthan, cave diving is both a passion and a hobby. He works as a full-time technology consultant. His friend Rick Stanton is a former firefighter. Although neither has an athletic or military background, they have a special skill set perfectly suited to the conditions here. Despite being only civilians, they are literal experts in cave diving, and to be realistic, passing through this cave requires many different skills. Because although some areas are flooded, it is possible to walk through some passages, and in other places climbing is required. Very poor visibility. Lots of places you literally couldn't see your hand in front of your face and you had to feel your way along. Rick and John moved step by step in the deep cave system, placing guide ropes along the way. This first dive in the cave was particularly difficult because they had to swim against the water current after Rick and John placed the guide ropes in one section. Other divers could progress by partially dragging themselves, and finding their way became much easier. The main goal of the divers was a section called Pattaya Beach. This was a large place located at a high position and offered protection from floodwaters. Maybe the children had gone here too, but John and Rick had to temporarily stop the search before progressing this far because the rain was getting heavier, and as they thought this situation could ultimately determine the fate of the children, both had to pause their dives for a while considering the conditions. But despite this, there was no thought of giving up among the Thai local divers. They worked day and night trying to do everything to help lower the water levels. Also, numerous volunteers joined the search. Among these were Suman Kunan, a former Navy diver and an experienced diver. The local divers established a permanent base in the Chamber 3 area inside the cave. This area of the cave provided enough non-flooded space to constantly deploy equipment, air tanks and divers. Even in the middle of a bad situation, they did everything they could to divert rivers, find new cave entrances and pump out as much water as possible from the cave using pump stations. Things were now going a bit south. 72 hours and almost the entire group are children. Luckily, with the motivation of the local search teams and considering the slight improvement in the weather, the British volunteers joined the help again and entered the cave system by going on their longest dive so far, aiming to reach Pattaya Beach. After a long and tiring dive, they finally reached their goal and managed to climb to the highest point of the cave system, but there was still no trace of the children. After this part, there was no way to continue diving responsibly. The basic rule is to leave about 1/3 of the air tank for entry, 1/3 for return and 1/3 as a reserve. The divers were already far beyond this rule, but they had not yet decided to give up and moved further into the cave system by laying a guide cable along the way. They continued to progress from the T-junction to twice the distance to their initial target, Pattaya Beach. Finally, they noticed a light. When they surfaced, John started to hear voices as he swam towards the light and immediately turned on his camera. The next day, a Thai diver team dived and stayed with them for the rest of the time. Although the world reacted with enthusiasm to the finding of the children, those involved in the rescue knew that finding the children was the easy part, but no one knew how to get them out of the cave safely. On one hand, there was the option of teaching the children to dive. They could do short dives in the cave with instructors they could practice until they were ready to go on a long and difficult journey. The second option was to rescue the team using an emergency elevator in a newly drilled shaft, so this was somewhat similar to the rescue of the miners in Chile in 2010. The last option was just to wait for the rainy season to end. The team would be provided with food during the time they were trapped, and they would be able to walk out of the cave when the water level dropped. Although there seemed to be many options from the outside, those involved in the rescue knew the situation was much worse. Because none of these options were realistic, it was not possible to teach children to dive in this kind of environment. Besides the fact that some children could not swim, they were tired and exhausted because they had not slept properly for days. Moreover, the narrow and dark cave path had nothing to do with training dives, and having even the slightest panic attack meant certain death. Furthermore, drilling a shaft was not entirely realistic considering the Chilean miners. It had taken about 7 weeks to rescue them after their discovery. The situation in the Thai cave was not much different either. The team was almost 1 kilometer underground, and since the cave mostly consisted of hard rocks, it was very difficult to drill through these rocks. Even if this method were used, it was uncertain exactly at which point the children were, so the drill hole had to align exactly with the area where they were finally waiting for the end of the rainy season was also doomed to failure. The oxygen level in the cave was already in a dangerous range, and it was not possible to survive for a long time. Moreover, they were only at the beginning of the rainy season, and the rains lasted until November. The team could have to endure for more than 4 months, and of course meanwhile the increasing rain could endanger the safe point where they were. The rescuers had no options left. Moreover, at this very moment, news of a new tragic development had arrived. Retired Navy Commando Suman Kunin, who volunteered to help find the children, had lost his life. This was a truly painful loss and had been a strong reminder of how dangerous the operation was. With no realistic rescue plan left, a bit of a crazy idea was put forward. What if the children were drugged and carried through the cave system while unconscious? At this point, Rick Stanton contacted an old acquaintance. Dr. Richard Harris was an anesthesiologist from Australia and a cave diver with over 30 years of experience. Obviously, he was not warm to this plan and thought that putting the children to sleep was extremely dangerous and their chances of survival were extremely low. However, he still went to Thailand, and what finally convinced him was not changing the risk assessment but simply realizing that there was no better option. A team was formed for this operation, and some of the world's best cave divers were brought in. The children in the cave would be put in a diving suit and then given 2 doses of sedative medication that would knock them out completely, then a special diving mask that covers the entire face and provides positive pressure to prevent water from leaking in would be worn. The children's arms would be tied behind them to prevent them from thrashing in the water. Also, an 80% oxygen-filled tank would be placed in front of the children's chest so that their heads would not fall completely forward and block the airway. Yes, all this was a bit crazy, but unfortunately this was the most logical one compared to other options. In addition to all this, the children would be connected to the divers with a line so they would not get lost, and from this point on the lives of these children were literally in the hands of these divers. In longer sections where they could walk, the children were taken on a stretcher and carried towards the next diving section. The medications given to the children were not enough for the entire journey, and the divers had to administer a new dose of medication to the children with pre-prepared syringes along the way. The divers were constantly worried about the lives of the children, but when the first 2 children safely reached the 3rd section, confidence in the team began to increase. This crazy plan seemed to really work. From here on, the water level had been successfully lowered, and local divers along with numerous volunteers continued to carry the children with stretchers through the remaining rocky part. 4 children were successfully rescued on the first day, and 4 more children were taken out the next day. On the 3rd and last day, the plan was to rescue the remaining 4 children and the assistant coach, but even though the procedure seemed to have settled to this point, something suddenly started to go wrong. The last remaining child was the youngest of them all, and the positive pressure mask did not fit his small face. No matter how much the divers pressed the mask, it did not create a waterproof seal on the face, so they had to try another mask that they had brought with them and hoped not to have to use. This mask was one for small children and used more in recreational dives. Even this barely fit the child's face and was constantly slipping, but the divers made it as solid as possible and continued the struggle, hoping for the best. The rescue operation had been tense until the last second, but it was finally completed. All the children and the assistant coach were rescued safely. This was a greater success than even the divers expected, but unfortunately the result was not completely without cost. A Thai local diver had contracted a blood infection during the rescue operation. Beirut Pakbara was a petty officer, first class, and had been struggling with health problems since the operation. He passed away about a year after they incident happened and thus 2 Thai divers sacrificed their lives to rescue the football team. They were the representatives of the relentless effort shown by Thai local divers to this mission, and although there were some doubts for both sides at the beginning, the British divers and Thai divers finally complemented each other perfectly and managed to progress strategically and efficiently. This event literally became a success story that the whole world watched.
You're heroes now. Did you feel that?
If you could do something for somebody else's child, I'm sure you would too. We just had a peculiar set of skills that were appropriate in that moment.
Please welcome the Wild Boars soccer team.